All right, welcome back, everybody. Let's talk a little real politics, and let's begin on the national level, where Mitt Romney trying to shift the conversation, as we said, back to debt.
If I'm president, I'm actually going to take responsibility and lead and get us on track to have a balanced budget.
All right, so you get the drill. You got the clock behind him, a nice prop. The only problem is it may not be the winning issue he thinks it is. That is, if you believe the polls. Less than half the public, 48%, have a favorable view of his plan to cut the federal taxes by 20%. And Americans, they are split on his plan to repeal the president's health care law. This number surprised me a little bit. 40% have a favorable view, while the same number have an unfavorable one. Is the debt, guys, a winning issue for Romney? There's differences between how to get there, but keep talking about the debt and the clock and everything else. Does this get you elected, Dominic, or not?
It plays well to the base, particularly to the conservative base. I don't know how well it's going to reach the independents. I think all Americans, the real issue, jobs, how am I going to pay my mortgage,
but you know,
how am I going to feed my family?
But the one thing maybe I'm not surprised by Europe, but the one thing, people ought to pay attention to what's going on in France and Europe and the other elections we've seen. There is, people might like the words, but if that means that you're going to be cutting into me and asking me to give even more here, where they don't see certain income brackets doing their fair share, they say, don't. And that's how people lose their jobs in public office. I didn't think it was going to be as much of a message, but unless we treat Europe as a different planet, that was a clear message, Andrew, that was delivered.
Well, and especially because they got a taste of the austerity first, and they saw the peel back of all those programs and didn't like it, and that's how we got the election results that we got over the last couple of weeks. We're just at the point where we're talking about those rollbacks, we're talking about those cutbacks, and you wonder how effective the warning message will be without people getting a taste of how painful it might otherwise be.
Okay, this next one's for you, Michael, the Tea Party here. And I've heard a lot of obits for the Tea Party, that they had their window in time. It's now come and gone. Well, recent elections say not so fast. In a huge upset, you go to Middle America, where in Nebraska, State Senator Deb Fischer won the Republican nomination for the U.S. Senate. Fischer's going to face off against former Democratic Senator Bob Kerrey. For those of you in New York, you might remember him as the president of the New School. And it is a race to replace Senator Ben Nelson, a Democrat and a very moderate one, to put it politely, who is retiring. Now, why is this a sign of Tea Party resurgence? Well, let's call it the Christy O'Donnell effect here. Deb Fischer, Tea Party-backed candidate, recently endorsed by Sarah Palin, among others, beat out the established candidate. If this sounds familiar, well, you go back to Delaware in 2010. Palin got behind Christine O'Donnell, Tea Partier, remember the whole witch thing and the whole bit? Well, this woman here lost, and lost big here, to a very, very vulnerable Democrat, when most people thought if the more establishment candidate had gotten the nomination, Michael Castle, he would have won. Go to Indiana, where an institution is now saying goodbye. Richard Murdoch, the Tea Party candidate, once again, did what was many thought impossible, unseating the incumbent who spent more than 3 decades in Washington, and I'm talking about Richard Lugar. Take a listen to what Mr. Murdoch, on his winning primary night, had to say about compromise.
I have a mindset that says bipartisanship ought to consist of Democrats coming to the Republican point of view. You know, I've said many times through this campaign that one of the things I hope to do is to help build a conservative Republican majority in the United States Senate, and continue to help the House build a Republican majority and have a Republican White House. And then bipartisanship becomes having Democrats come our way.
Okay. If I asked you a month ago what you thought of Dick Lugar, probably say some nice things, right?
I wouldn't say bad things about him, except that he lost his way a long time ago. I mean, you're talking about a United States Senator that didn't even have a residence anymore in his state. He didn't even have an apartment. I mean, you talk about losing touch with the voters.
Okay, but forgetting where his mailbox was, well, you still would have liked him. Don't tell me his politics would have turned you off that much. He always voted Republican.
Well, yeah, he didn't vote conservative. He always voted maybe Republican and did a lot of business with liberal Democrats, okay? And when he first came to the Senate, he was somewhat of a conservative Republican. As years went on, he morphed to the left and became clearly a rhino.
Okay.
And he became
right.
so obnoxious.
But Michael, I know this much. You may not love Romney, but I know you like him more than you do Obama, right?
Richard, do you like a candidate that represents you in the state, whatever state you live in, New York, that doesn't even have a residence in New York?
No, okay, but my point is, let's get beyond that too. I know you know your history and the mythology, the character Pyrrhus, right? Where we got Pyrrhic victory won. You win the battle, but you lose the war. Delaware, Exhibit A. This lunatic, okay, O'Donnell, is the Republican nominee, and she's doing ads about that she's trying to explain she's not a witch. Now, so I won't drag you into it, I'll say it. You guys would have won if you had the other Republican guy. Everybody agrees to that. But to make a statement...
everyone says we would have. No one
come
knows that for
on.
sure.
No, Sharon Angle and Harry Reid in Nevada, same thing.
Absolutely. No one knows that for a fact. And the bottom line, the Tea Party movement, which is the segment we're on, is by far not dead. It is the conservative.
I agree with you.
It is the conservative
But are you
tide.
worried that you're going to win primaries but lose generals as a consequence?
It is the conservative tide that's sweeping the nation because of debt, because of taxes, because of overspending, and because of where we're...
But Michael, I'm asking at the end of the day, you're worried that you'll win a primary but you'll lose a general here, and your chance to take the Senate back, your chance to have real margins in the House, your chance to win the White House is going to be compromised because Ronald Reagan's idea of a Big Tent here, it's getting tighter and tighter. Who's allowed in?
No, we're not talking. I'm not talking about.
Didn't you like that line? I thought that was pretty good.
That was
yeah.
a pretty good line.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about closing up the tent, but the bottom line is, conservative voices have to be also in that tent.
Oh, there's enough.
And well, they have to continue to be part of that, and the Tea Party people are part of that conservative voice.
Absolutely.
And they're finding their footing.
All right, and that music says we are going to take a break.